What's up everyone, Ivan from Darkglass here, and today I'll give you an overview of the latest update for the Anagram, KosmOS version 1.7.0. This new update brings 4 new effect blocks, some tweaks and adjustments to current effects, and also some quality of life improvements. For the new effects, we have the Pharos Phaser, the Tremora Tremolo, the Vibralis Vibrato, and a Parametric EQ block. Let's check out some sound samples of the new effects, and then we're going to explore their settings and their controls. Now, to demonstrate the new modulation blocks and also the parametric EQ, I've made this preset, which has an amp and a cabinet before all the new modulation effects. Similar to what you would do if you were recording in a studio and then you apply the effects afterwards, or if you were running the effects in the effects loop of an amp instead of before the amp. So just bass without any effects sounds like this. Let's engage the Pharos Phaser. These are the default settings on the Pharos Phaser, and it sounds like this. As you can hear, it has this liquid, kind of watery or underwater effect, and these are just the default settings. For the controls, we have a mode selector that allows us to pick between mono and stereo. If we set the phaser to stereo, we also have the option to control the stereo phase on the second page of the block settings. Then we have the color control, and here we can pick between 250, 500, 750, 1000 and 1500 Hz. Now let's hear what the color settings do to our signal. I'm going to repeat pretty much the same line and then swap between the Hertz values so that you can hear. Let's start with 250. Now 500. 750, 1000, and 1500. Next, we have the depth control, but that one is also somewhat linked to the rate. So the rate controls how frequent or how fast the phasing is going to happen, and the depth is how drastic the phase is going to be. So I'm going to increase the rate, which is going to be pretty obvious. If I lower the rate, it's pretty slow, pretty subtle. I'm going to increase it a little bit more. And the more I increase this, the faster the phasing happens. And you can get some really wild effects if you really increase it. Like that. Now, if I increase this a bit and then play around with depth, and you can hear there how the frequency or the sound moves. It's not like constant, but the sweeping motion is really pretty wide compared to you get a much more like pulsating effect. And all the way up. Compared to all the way, or pretty much, yeah, all the way off. As you can hear, the effect is still there, but it's pretty mild. Next up, we have the feedback control. And at the default settings, it sounds like this. If I lower it, even more. But if I increase it more, let's go to 8. As you can hear, higher feedback settings make the effect more pronounced, and lower feedback settings make it more subtle. For the last control, we have the stages, and the default is at 4. If we go to 2, to 6, and to 8, now for the block settings of the Tremora Tremolo, we also have a mode between mono and stereo, and you can see that if we switch it to stereo, we also have the option to control the stereo phase as the last control. For now, let's look at a mono. Here we can control the rate of the tremolo. So how fast that volume modulation is going to happen. lower settings. Pretty subtle. And really high. Even higher. That of course is pretty drastic. For the shape control, at the middle position at 5, we have a triangle shape for the tremolo. Moving to a sawtooth in the right direction, so clockwise. And an inverted sawtooth counterclockwise. And you can hear just moving this control really changes the overall character of the effect. You don't have to be as extreme either, you can put it somewhere in the middle. Next up is the depth control, and similar to the phaser, this one is going to control how drastic the effect is going to be. Pretty subtle right now at 20%. If I increase it to 50, you now hear it definitely much more clearly, still somewhat subtle. So if you want to really show the effect, go to higher setting. And now you can really hear the pulse effect of the tremolo happening. Next up is the Vibralis Vibrato, and these are the default settings. For the controls, we have the rate, so again, how fast the modulation of the pitch is going to happen. You can clearly hear very slowly how the pitch moves. And even higher. Next, we have the depth, and this one is similar to the other controls, so how drastic that pitch change is going to be. You can really make some funny effects by using higher depth settings. For the final control of the Vibralis Vibrato, we have the shape control, and here we can pick between sine wave and triangle wave. Let's listen to how both of them sound like, and I've dialed in some kind of extreme settings. here, the effect is somewhat subtle, but I think it's fair to say that a sine wave is warmer, a bit more melodic, if you will, and the triangle is a bit sharper, more percussive. For the final block, we have the new Parametric EQ block, and this one is pretty similar, almost identical to the global EQ. The only difference now is that you can adjust scenes and also set up stomps and also stomp macros. So similar to the global EQ, we can control all the 6 bands that you see on the screen. We can control the gain, the frequency position, and the width of the EQ filter. But if I go to scene mode, you can see now that this parameter is assigned to this scene, so scene A. And if I go to scene B, that EQ move is bypassed unless I desire to adjust something else. But all those EQ parameters are tied to scenes now, which is great when you want to slightly adjust your EQ for different brain styles, for example, finger style, slap, and pick, or if you kick on some effects and you want to adjust your EQ slightly to match those changes, you can do so like this. And as I mentioned, we can also make stomp assignments to the EQ. If I press the foot switch, tap on the plus, and select the block, here I can choose the parameter that I want to assign to the stomp. It can be either the on-off switch to kick in the EQ on and off, or also some of the parameters, either the gain of the bands, the frequency of the bands, and also the Q of the bands. And as I mentioned, we can also make macros. For the tweaks and adjustments to current blocks, both the Chocolate Mint Chorus and the Flamingo Flanger have had the range of the rate extended, and now it goes down to 0.1 Hz, giving you much more flexibility when dialing in your tones. Also, for Entropia, the solo button remains toggled on when switching from one band to another, also allowing you to dial in your sound much more precisely. As an additional quality of life feature, you can now restore a block to its factory default state. To do so, tap the 3 dots on the top right corner and then restore factory default state. From here, confirm the message and the block will be back to its factory default settings. Last but not least, you can now access the tuner by holding down the left foot switch even when you're inside the settings of a block, and not only from the signal chain, bindings, or preset name view. For more information on the Anagram, please visit darkglass.com or click the link in the description below. Thank you for watching and take care.